Alright everyone, it's time for Occult Literature, video number 398, The Immediate Future and Other Lectures by Annie Besant. Link in the description of my edition of this work on Amazon. It's 126 pages, so it's an intermediate read, as a lot of Theosophical and especially Besant works were. Second and third links are to my books blogs, and this is a series of oratorical speeches by Annie Besant, given to the Theosophists that were assembled there. And they were transcribed and they were turned into a book. Therefore, they're on entirely different topics. So one of them is about India. Actually, several are technically about India, about the sociopolitics there, how they intertwine with the spiritual. Besant was the main claimant that there was a coming immediately, like fairly soon, world teacher, avatar, a new Krishna or Jesus, that was going to unite all of mankind, and war and stuff would pass away. That hasn't happened, of course, since 100 years earlier when it was first predicted by her. It's sort of a slight takeoff of Blavatsky. Of course, Blavatsky was talking about the Mahatmas and the coming world teacher as well. Besant gave it more of a socio-political twist and more immediacy than Blavatsky necessarily did. She seems to have looked at it more as a generational thing. It was a slow process. Besant seems to have thought, well, you look at the world situation now. She had recency bias, arguably. Obviously, it's coming down the pipeline in our lifetimes. Part of that may have been a little bit of grifting. Just saying there was a reason Steiner took half the Theosophical Society with him and left. But there are other lectures here, too. There are mindfulness, karma, the basic premise of the Mahatmas. There's a bit about the concept of Atlantis. So you've got a pretty disparate mix of different material from a Theosophical background. Of course, remember, Besant was by this time the leader of the Theosophical Society. She does speak at length on Blavatsky and some of her literary work and her ideas, and really goes through and fleshes out a whole bunch of different concepts. But Besant, uniquely among the Theosophists, they all had their different sort of bent with regards to the subtopics that they covered and how they analyzed the world and of the spiritual. Besant was formerly actually a socialist, socio-anarchist activist. She was part of that. She left that behind. Actually, there is one little lecture in here on the topic of revolution versus reform, effectively, and actually excoriates some of the leftist movements that by that time had become quite violent, maybe more ideological when Besant first joined up, and several decades prior. She decided to go more the spiritual path. But there was lingering political beliefs that she had. She seems to have aligned more with progressive movements at a certain point. So not like anarchists and stuff, but some of the fashionable leftists of the time. Well, look at the workers' conditions. How can we expect people to be enlightened if they're being plowed into the dirt, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and we're causing vices, and there's gin palaces and stuff. She was very much into those various reform issues. So when you do read this, if you do, and if you're into theosophy, definitely get a copy. Keep that in mind, that much of this is either tainted or influenced by, depending on your beliefs, by Besant's ongoing obsession with sociopolitics, especially with regards to India, the rising up of India as a major economic power, which it had by that time, and of course later on becoming military power, today one of the largest economies. I think it's number 4 in the world now. She was correct in many of her predictions with regards to the trajectory of India and the British Empire. Maybe not so much the rise of a great world leader and a new avatar. Anyway, again, link in the description of my edition of this work on Amazon. It is highly recommended. Second and third links to my books blogs. If you are interested in theosophy, I think there's like 40 different works in my editing slew, in several categories actually, although mostly under the spiritual and academic headers that are theosophical in nature. So plenty of additional reading material for those who are into it. That's about all. Peace out.